from unknown parts of metropolitan New York City. I am the hip of this, Cicely!
Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Good evening, or good morning, good afternoon, whenever you might be listening. Well, with that kind of enthusiasm from Mr. Hip, it must mean that fantasy football is around the corner. Oh, I mean football, right? Isn't that what they do?
No, because the New York Mets are in extra innings right now. Oh, my God, yes! Steven Matz is on the DL, or he's about to be. Oh, God.
Oh, my mistake. Okay, I thought
Matt Harvey had a rehab outing. Sat between 89 and 92 miles per hour today. Very, very exciting development.
My mistake. All right, that was New York Mets enthusiasm. Oh, I thought we were going to put that on hold until 2018. Oh, but it still exists. Residual enthusiasm for the Mets. Well, so much going on. That's not the Mets. How about all of the stuff that's been in the news? You know, did you burn out your retinas looking at that eclipse today, Mr. Hemp, like our president did? Whoops.
I think I ruptured a cornea instead.
Just a sty in the eye. no burn retinas, just a sty in the eye. For
well, it's a sty where the whitehead hasn't quite yet formed, so we'll see if it gets to that stage as a result of just staring at the sun for too long with the 79% coverage. Oh,
yeah, it's Eclipse. Oh, actually, I think it was 71. Get your percentages right. It's all right. Seven more years, and we'll have a full eclipse, so we can enjoy that. Oh yes, and how about Jerry Lewis? 91 years old, gone. Nice lady. Yeah, that's my best Jerry Lewis impression. All right, and the USS Indianapolis discovered Under the Sea, one of my all-time favorite movies, Jaws, and the best scene in that movie, Quint giving his USS Indianapolis tale. So much going on that's not sports-related, but we're not going to talk about any of that anymore because we are a New York sports podcast. And yes, football is upon us, as we pointed out last week. We'll point out again to you next week, and we'll point out to you on our full preview show that football will be a day away. That's right. Our football preview show will be the day before the NFL kicks off. But we, of course, have to berate the NFL a little bit because we wouldn't be hip and hip if we didn't do that. But I guess before we get to all that, the baseballs, yes, top of the stretch they are, coming to the stretch run as we approach Labor Day. So how excited are you for that, besides your Mets excitement, Mr. Hip?
Look, so we're going to get through the Yankees. We've kind of already covered the Mets. And there's going to be a special fantasy football draft show, if you will. There'll be one in the second half of today's show. There'll be one also in next week's show. So look forward to us talking about how we think about players, and we have to be completely honest. There's no hold back. And we're gonna each ask each other what we think of certain players. So we're gonna be put on the spot. I'm looking forward to that because we don't know who we're gonna have to talk about. So it's gonna be exciting. But look, let's go through the formalities here.
Of course.
The Yankees, yes, the formalities of the like us on iTunes, whatever.
Oh, that's right. Those formalities. That's right.
Rate us. So look, the Yankees are hanging around. They had another tough series at Boston this past weekend. They dropped 2 of 3. Off tonight. I mean, they had a nice comeback, and whoops, and then they go to Detroit for a series starting tomorrow. So look, I mean, I feel like there's the natural overreaction because Judge was doing so well in the first half of the year that now he stinks, and now we have to analyze, should we drop him in the order? How's he getting out of that slump? It's like Yankee fans had it got to a point where you just expected Judge to keep hitting and not go through an extended slump like this, and so shame on him for coming back to earth, to reality. So now there's over analysis of like what should the Yankees do to try to stay alive here in the divisional race, where they really shouldn't have been where they are in the first place. So I just feel like the Yankees are coming back to earth a bit, and it's almost like they're now disappointing their fans because they were riding such a high for so long, and now this this extended downswing is really casting doubt or recasting the doubt that was originally there to start the season. So I don't know. Do you feel like we've now kind of come full circle with this team where we're actually seeing how we kind of expected them to play initially?
We're seeing the warts. I mean, and like you said, Judge, he's going to get it gets magnified because their offense has been bad. And because their offense was so good in the first half, and because Judge was one of the driving forces of why their offense was so good, now we're gonna examine Judge. We're gonna overanalyze Judge, and his struggles get magnified. I mean,
but you say bad, but like, is it worse than what you would have expected from this team at the beginning of the season, or is it just bad because it's so much worse than what it has been?
No, yes. Even coming into the season, I said that I thought they would have a pretty good offense. It was the starting pitching that we were worried about. And again, last week I mentioned the injuries. Castro, who should be coming back very, very soon. Holiday, who has been non-existent again since June, who it looks like he will be back at some point. Bird, it looks like you may have a bird sighting. Look up in the sky, it's a bird. Or no, look in the left-handed batter's box. You might see him very, very soon. So, I mean, it looks like they're going to be getting reinforcements, and hopefully, if they do get one or two or all those guys back, they'll kind of hit the ground running, and they can kind of mask whatever other deficiencies that they've had in their offense. That includes Aaron Judge. I mean, Hicks has come back and played very well for the most part. Sanchez has been hitting the ball very, very well. Struggled a little bit in Boston, but for the most part has hit the ball a lot better over the last couple of weeks or so. Judge, though, it's just right now his strikeout rate is through the roof. 46% of his at-bats in the second half have ended in strikeouts. Actually, I was curious. So as of right now, 34% of his plate appearances for his entire career, which of course extends back to August of last year, have ended in strikeouts. Just for a point of reference, Joe DiMaggio, 5% of his at-bats. 5% of his at-bats in his career, or plate appearances, I should say, not even at-bats, ended in strikeouts. And never had more than like 39 in the season. Well, anyway,
home run rate that he had was unsustainable if you're not going to put the ball in play with that infrequency.
But also part of it, and he's also 1 for 32 against lefties in the second half, which is amazing. I mean, a right-handed batter that's getting absolutely destroyed by left-handed pitching. But what's also amazing is that, what's interesting to me is that, and I've noticed this, and I actually saw it written about recently, his strike zone right now is completely a mystery to everybody, including him. He has no idea what's going to be called a strike, partly because of the fact that he's so big and because his strike zone gets expanded because of his size. But the umpires, they've just been so inconsistent. High strikes, in the beginning of the season, it was more low strikes. Now it's more high strikes. He can't hit that high inside fastball. That's where they've been pitching him a lot lately, is those fastballs up and in. He can't connect with them, but he's also protecting against the possibility that very high strike around the letters is going to be called a strike, or that high pitch around the letters will be a strike. And right now, I don't think he has any clue of the strike zone. And you know what? You can blame him partially for that, but you can't hold him completely responsible because the umpires have done a terrible job figuring out and displaying what his actual strike zone is. So I think he's going to have to make more adjustments to where the umpires are calling strikes, and that's something obviously that's on him. I think he will do that, and I think by the stretch run as we get to next month, and as they come down the stretch, I think you will see him at least get a little more comfortable, especially when they have other guys in the lineup. Hopefully that'll be hitting and kind of alleviate the pressure off of him. Do I think that it's the end of the world that he stays in a 3-hole? No. Do I think it could potentially help him dropping him? Maybe. It's not an automatic or given to me, but he right now is struggling, and that whole offense is really struggling. And
it's just amazing how much
was brutal. And they left a small village on base. Terrible.
We're just so guilty of. It's not just this, but in general of how much it's being overanalyzed. I mean, the guy's going through a slump, like a lot of other players will. It's just that he's coming off such a small sample size of ridiculousness
that's why he's
like,
not.
It's like, oh my God, how can he?
Yeah, he's not.
Really? Oh my God. Oh,
Yeah,
he's human.
It's because he's not an established veteran, though. Established veterans, you say, all right, eventually he has a track record, he has a resume, he's going to come out of it. Judge right now doesn't have anything to fall back on. That's why he's going to be scrutinized. And again, it's because they are missing key guys in that lineup, and that offense has not been going. And that
but guys like Alex Rodriguez, when he struggled in the postseason, that crap was overanalyzed. I mean, and he had his good of a track record. I mean, yes, different scenario, I get it, but I just I don't know. I guess I'd rather hear that than the hour by hour updates from the president of his Twitter account, which today was a nice reprieve from, just because we had the eclipse to
distract
us.
Look up the sun, Mr. President.
The fun resumes tomorrow there. Anyway, look, so I don't know, like what is there anything else that you think is worth noting about this team that you have your eye close on, like Chapman, something else going forward the next week or two?
Chapman was abysmal on Friday. I mean, his performance on Friday was a disgrace. I mean, now granted, the Yankees should have scored more runs. If you watch that Friday night game, they were down 3-0. They tie the game up, and then they go ahead in the seventh inning. It's 6-3. But Judge actually had the bases loaded, came up with the bases loaded twice, and I think struck out. But no, I'm sorry, he grounded out and then struck out. He actually had a really good at bat, and that's one thing I haven't mentioned. He has had some good at bats, Judge. On Friday night, he had a really good at bat with the bases loaded. Ended up grounding out the short, but it was a really good at bat. Took some tough pitches, fouled off some tough pitches, but they should have been up by a larger margin than 6-3. Instead, their bullpen gives it up. Green, Conley, who was pitched badly, gave it up, and then Chapman brought in with the game still obviously very much within reach at 7-6, and just an absolutely disgraceful performance. Gave up a couple runs, but even worse, allowed a double steal, which he was completely not paying attention to the runners, and then failed to back up home on a base hit, the 2-run RBI single that made it 9-6. And then once you get down like that to the Red Sox with in the latter part of the game with Kimbrel waiting, you're not hitting him. And the Yankees, other than Holiday's home run off of him a month ago, the Yankees, like everybody else, have not hit Craig Kimbrel. He's been that good this year. And right now the Yankees have an issue with Chapman. I mean, do they have an issue in the ninth inning? No, it looks like they'll be okay because they do have guys that are capable. Robertson, Betances, whoever. Chapman, though, has been terrible. And right now it is unknown as to how he's going to be used. And I think that goes for the manager right now, too. He doesn't know what.
Do you think Chapman's pitching injured? I know there's talk of like this bulky hamstring or whatever. Is he just, I don't know, is he trying to fight through something and they're not fully letting it on?
I mean, it's possible. He did have he was limping, was at the end of one of the Met games. We didn't mention they swept the Mets. Oh, big accomplishment, sweeping in 4 games. The Mets part of rivalry week, of course. It's possible that he's pitching injured, Chapman. You haven't heard anything. They haven't said anything. They probably won't at this point if he is injured, and if they know, they don't know. But the bigger question is, if he is injured, the easy thing would have just been to put him on the DL instead of demoting him and he's no longer a closer. They could have just put him on the DL. Said his hamstring is balky, put him on the 10-day DL, and then bring him back and within a few weeks or whatever. So it doesn't appear that he is. He's throwing hard. It's just well, what's the deal with him? How come people aren't swinging and missing at his fastball anymore? How come he can't locate his fastball? How come his slider has no bite to it? It's just a bunch of things right now with Chapman, and but the bottom line is he's not getting the job done, and the Yankees have no idea what to do with him right now. And it's just how are you going to build up his confidence again? This is not the time of year you're trying to build up a pitcher's confidence. If he's that lost, he's basically going to be relegated to mop-up duty and come in for an inning and pitch here in a 7-run game. But the bottom line is they're going to need him at the end of the year and in the playoffs. Can they get by right now? If you take him out, everybody pitches well. Can you get by? Absolutely. Their bullpen is that deep. But when you're relying on him to be the guy in the 9th inning come October, and that's what I'm sure the plan is to get him righted by the time October comes. But it's end of August.
Well, maybe they should trade for a replacement in the name of Ike Davis, who's now a full-time pitcher in the Oakland minor league system, and in his first appearance, struck out the side. So maybe there's something to that. Yeah.
Interesting. Ike Davis, our old buddy Ike Davis, is now a pitcher. How about that?
Yeah, well, the Mets could potentially try to use him as well with the rash of
right
injuries.
now, he'd be like their 8th inning guy.
Well, great. So, by the way, sayonara, Curtis Granderson, now a Los Angeles Dodger, traded for cash
for him. Yeah.
Or I mean, look, I don't know what his playoff history experience is.
For the Mets, the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets.
Did he win the World Series?
Well, no, but he was the Mets' best player. I mean, honestly, he was their most consistent position player, even more so than Daniel Murphy 2 years ago. As good as Murphy was, remember, Murphy disappeared in the World Series. Granderson was their best or most consistent position player throughout that entire postseason. All he does is get clutch hits. He is a perfect addition for that Dodger team that is still steamrolling the entire league. And it's just a question of for the Dodgers right now, it's wake me up when the World Series begins, or at least I had better see my team in the World Series. If not, it'll be a very disappointing year for them. But a great addition for the Dodgers. Perfectly fits into that team, into that locker room. Obviously, you're going to hear about the leadership and all that, but the guy is such a clutch player. Just gets big hits after big hit. He is, and I love him. I mean, it's impossible not to root for Curtis Granderson. So I actually have incentive now to root for the Dodgers. Now that Curtis Granderson is there, so I am happy for him that he's in a better situation, and I'm sure that he will be very much a big help to that Dodger team. All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready to talk about some Jets. I watched the preseason game against the Lions, and here are a couple of takeaways that I think are worth noting. So, Christian Hackenberg in the preseason, 11 possessions. How many points?
Was it? Did he lead one of the touchdown drives? Actually, in the first game, I can't remember now.
0.
Is 0? Okay.
Yeah, his one quarter against the Lions. How many?
I know he finished 2 for 6. What was it? 2 for 6 for like 7 yards.
0 first downs.
0. Okay.
Yep. 0. Well, it was the first quarter. I'm sorry, just the first quarter. He had 0. He had 0 first downs, 0 completions, 3 total yards, 2 sacks for minus 17 yards. Passes thrown beyond the line of scrimmage, 0 for 4 for 0 yards. And he said that he thought the Lions did a great job studying their tape. Stafford said the team barely watched the tape at all prepping for this game.
It's a preseason game. What is he talking about? They did a great job prep. What a dope. What a dope. Oh, my God. Jet fans, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Just take solace in the fact that even if Sam Darnold doesn't come out of USC, there will be a few other potentially franchise quarterbacks available. Just take solace in that. I tell you, I heard, if you finish up your analysis, but just really quickly, I heard McCagnon today. So Francesa had him on. He was at Jets camp. You heard McCagnon. I swear to God, you as a general manager, especially knowing what the perception of your team is right now, you would give your fan base something to be excited or enthusiastic about. I tell you, the guy inspired 0 enthusiasm for this team. He basically said, don't even bother watching us this year.
He probably couldn't fake it.
He couldn't.
He couldn't bring himself to fake it. Yeah. Well, I will say Todd Bowles faked it pretty well. I mean, maybe it wasn't fake, but he was on Boomer and Carton about a week and a half ago. I listened to him. And, he was saying crap like, well, we're still 0-0, and I think we have a lot of talent on this team, and I think we could win close games, and saying the things that you're supposed to be saying and actually produce the emotion for a fan that you're referring to what McCagnon failed to do.
Yeah, I mean,
so at least Ball still had it going.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Obviously, the coach is just trying to win it. It's every Sunday. I mean, his job is to win the damn game, as Herman Edwards reminded some reporters all those years ago. And I understand that McCagnon's job, at least if he's going to have a job after this year, is to try and build a team for the future, especially a team that was going nowhere this year. So, but it's just unbelievable that he couldn't give the Jet fans something. Oh, look, watch this guy. Oh, I really like this group. This here. It was nothing. It was just, yeah, we have young players. We have a good core. We really like our young. We're younger. We have good young players. We like our young players. GM McCagnon, are you going to win any games this year? Well, we're hopeful. Maybe, maybe we'll win one or two. Jet fans, get excited. I mean, it was the most boring, generic, cliched interview, and I understand that a lot of them are trained this way, but I mean, again, just knowing what the perception of his team is, you would think he would give Jet fans something to hold on to. Unbelievable. Anyway, so Jets-Lions.
Wow.
Did I miss? I watched, I think, 3 seconds. Did I miss anything other than Hackenberg's wonderful performance?
Well, let's move on to tonight's game, and this is the Giants. Yeah, the Giants and the Browns, and I'm seeing a hit right now on Beckham. I don't know if you saw this, but basically the cornerback, number 20, goes right at his knee. Well, right after it plants, Beckham could be, if that bent a slightly different way, Beckham could be out for the year. Like, I don't know if you saw this hit.
I did. And
it was oh my gosh.
It was a bad hit. I've already seen like a few a few people.
Was the cornerback penalized on that play?
I don't think so. It was a bad hit though. Apparently
they penalized another corner. I think it was Peppers on a miscatch downfield throw to Marshall. But I thought that was not. I didn't think that deserved the flag because it was so bang bang, and they really couldn't. The guy actually avoided hitting him in the head.
Yeah,
they did pick it up because they announced the penalty at first. Oh, they did pick it up. Good.
Well, they said there was a flag and it would have been for something there, but no, there was no penalty. They picked it up and that was the right call. There was absolutely no penalty on that. That was nothing there.
Beckham could have been like, if you get hit in the knee right after you plant that leg, that's like that's the right case to get your ACL tear. Yeah. Wow.
And
it's unbelievable.
It was a bad hit. I mean, it looks like, they haven't, and they said that he's going to go for further evaluation. So right now we don't know, but he was.
Oh, so he actually came out of the game. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no, he came out of the game. Had an X-ray. They said X-rays on his ankle at least. His ankle was X-ray negative, but they said he'll be further evaluated. I mean, he was walking around on the sideline, so you hope that. I mean, I'm sure that if there was a tear to his, cartilage in his knee, that he would not have been walking around. At least most likely would not have been walking around. I know that they can walk even with that. They just can't go side to side, but. Hopefully it's just a very minor sprain to his ankle, if anything, and they'll say that he's out for a couple of weeks, or I guess ideally they'll say that he's fine, he'll practice, and he's not going to play any more preseason games because why risk him? But yeah, it was a bad hit. It was one that you held your breath if you were a Giant fan seeing him on the ground. But Marshall actually too. Marshall they said was also getting his shoulder X-rayed, so not a good Giant wide receivers. I don't know if it was the Peppers hit. I mean, I have to take a look at it again. I didn't see anything there with the Peppers hit. I don't know if it was that or something else, but bad night for Giant receivers.
I mean, the offense looked pretty sluggish. I don't know if they were kind of being whatever out there. Weren't really inspired by much offensively at all from that team tonight.
Yeah, Ingram actually had a couple catches, so that's nice to see. Beckham had a few catches in this game, and not that you're not. Beckham plays, he's going to catch the ball if it's thrown to him, usually, at least. Anyway, usually. But, the Giant offense right now, 2 games in, fine. 2 preseason games in, fine. You can say who cares, but we've said who cares in the past. We said the same exact thing in preseason last year when their offense stunk, and it carried out through the whole season. So, hopefully, this is just preseason kinks, and again, you'll always hear that they want to peak, as you get into the season and not coming out of training camp and into the beginning of the season. But I guess if you want to be a little concerned right now, you can be, because we saw the same exact thing last year, and they never, ever got in sync throughout the whole course of the year. But, it's only the second preseason game. We're not going to go crazy. So, we'll just take it for what it is. Hopefully Beckham's okay. I'm sure he will not see another preseason, especially if he is injured. Probably will not see another preseason snap, and we'll have to just hope that he's going to be available for week 1 against the Cowboys in Dallas. But, the Giants, really not much to say. Again, like you said, sluggish offensively, running game, nothing. Defense looked pretty good. Pierre-Paul looked good. I think their defense is going to be just fine when the season begins, and I'm sure it'll only get better as the season progresses like they did last year. So.
And meanwhile, in Ezekiel Elliott-less Dallas Cowboys for Week 1, in all likelihood, he did appeal the 6-game suspension, and he filed the appeal, but we should expect that appeal to hopefully be resolved by Week 1.
Yeah, I mean, it'll take place next Tuesday, the 29th of August, so that's when the appeal was granted. I mean, we weren't sure if it was definitely going to be granted, even though we thought it would be, so it has been granted. It won't be Goodell hearing, it'll be one of his buddies, I guess. So there's, of course, people that are upset about that he chose somebody that used to be like a league employee or something. I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. If you want to reduce it to 4 games, go ahead and reduce it to 4 games. If you really want to take the teeth out of your policy, that's fine. I wouldn't expect anything less from the NFL. I will say, without getting all back into this again, so there was some public sniping between the NFL and the NFL Players Association, and I got to say, not that the NFL can ever claim to be the moral authority on anything, especially related to this topic. The NFL came out looking much better than the NFLPA. The NFLPA, I mean, they've started their, first off, they've started their smear campaign against the girl that Elliott allegedly, if you want to use that word, assaulted, and basically just attacking her credibility, not providing any evidence that would indicate that Elliott is innocent. They're just saying, oh, you can't believe her, look what she did, look what she said. Just starting a smear campaign where they attack the victim. That's wonderful. And you heard DeMaurice, the head of the Players Association, come out basically and say, yeah, this is all ploy. This is all the NFL Players Association digging in for a battle with the NFL when the CBA is up. So regardless of what you think of the NFL Players Association comes across as basically an organization, a group that can care less about this issue, completely just not taking this issue seriously at all and using it as a negotiating ploy, as a tactic, and just setting the stage for what's going to be, I guess, an epic battle between them and the NFL when the CBA comes up, which won't be for a few more years, but it's not surprising at all. The NFL Players Association has a lot of egg on their face for what they've done over the years, whether it's with their former players or with attacking this. And they really, the NFL used the word shameful to describe them, and you know what? They're dead on. They really are. The NFL statement using the word shameful to describe the NFLPA, they're dead on. I'm sorry to say it. And we'll see. How it plays out, but. Not a surprise that this was a negotiating tactic by the NFLPA.
Political posturing at its finest for
absolutely
the benefit of NFL players at the expense of morality.
More or less, yeah. That's a good. You summed it up.
All right.
That's basically what it is. All right. Well, next Tuesday the appeal will be heard. I'm sure we'll find out something by the beginning of the season. Whatever. You want to reduce it to 4 games? Go ahead, and we'll see.
So let's move on to some fantasy football. I'm pretty excited. This is why I watched the game. I mean, yeah, I'm going to obviously be watching every second of the Jets games, but I might mix and match a little bit with the red zone or whatever else. All right.
Yes, NFL red zone.
So look, it's now. I don't think most people are really drafting yet. I think most leagues drafts will be closer to the end of this week, and then up and through the 6th, which is the day before the season starts. But I think now people are thinking about their rankings and draft strategy, auction strategy, and players they have their eye on, who's rising in the preseason, who's falling. And so I think it's a good time for us to be put on the spot on how we think about certain players. I know you've already completed a one draft / auction, so you should have some pretty good knowledge of how you feel about players. I would imagine.
I found that I was going to do that auction about like an hour before it started. So if I recognize the name, Aaron Rodgers, I know that guy. I'll bid on him. That's cool. So
that's cool. Yeah, cool. It sounds so cool. So the format's going to go like this. We're each going to take a turn. We'll each take 3 turns, and there'll be 3 turns total. And for each turn, one person throws out a player name to the other, and the other person has to, take 30 seconds to a minute and give their honest opinion on that player, and they'll also have to say whether they believe that the player will outperform or underperform their current ranking in half PPR leagues. We're going to go middle ground because we have PPR league listeners, we have non-PPR league listeners, so we're just going to split it and take it there. And look, we're not going to name like the first overall guy at each position. We're going to, it can't be that boring. So without further ado, I will put the Lip on the spot first because I know he doesn't have a player yet picked out for me. So I'm going to have to name a player, which I have not. This is all on the fly. I had not a thought of any player in advance for the Lip to think about. But let's get right to it. And okay, so let's see what the Lip thinks. I mean, this might be. Oh, I think it's an interesting enough name. So the name is Davante Adams.
Oh, I knew you were going to choose him. I knew it.
So Davante Adams is the 18th on average. He's the 18th receiver taken in half PPR leagues according to Fantasy Pros. So that's where he's currently going. And what say you about Davante Adams, the wide receiver on number 17, I believe, on the Green Bay Packers?
Davante Adams. So, Green Bay, I know that. He was drafted out of Fresno State. I just learned that. Second-round pick. Oh, how about that? Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers. Everybody knows that name, right? Arguably the best quarterback in the game today. He will go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So, if you are a wide receiver and you have the best quarterback of all time throwing you passes, well then, you're probably going to have a pretty good year, right? Well, a couple of years ago, everybody loved Davante Adams. Why? Because Jordy Nelson went down for the year. So everybody assumed that Davante Adams, forget about just shooting up the charts, that he was going to have an off-the-chart year, right? Well, wrong. He'd had a terrible year. He had a zillion drop passes. He couldn't. It looked like he didn't know how to play the position, and because he had a lot of volume, he was able to put up halfway decent numbers, but nowhere near the numbers everybody predicted as soon as Jordy Nelson got hurt. So last year, he came back and had a very, very good year. Held on to the ball, did not have nearly as many drops last year as it did the year before. And I think he caught 12 touchdown passes last year. So,
yep, 75 catches, 997 yards, 12 touchdowns.
Okay, so a very, very good year for Davante Adams, and was every bit as good as the numbers suggested. And honestly, I think he is. I think that's really. I mean, you look at the ranking for half PPR. I'm sure it's very much or at least very similar in the other leagues too, or the other ranking systems also. But I think at 18, I would say that's probably dead on. I like Davante Adams this year to better his numbers from last year, at least in the receptions and yards. Touchdowns, I mean, that's always, that could always be, give and take. But I think receptions and yards, he will better his numbers. I think he is a very, very good receiver. I think having Jordy Nelson on the other side, who continues to be one of the most prolific receivers in the league, will only help him. Yes, they brought in the tight end Martellus Bennett, but I really don't think there's anybody. I mean, Randall Cobb, nice player, had a really good year. What was it like? Seemed like 5 years ago now, Randall Cobb. But I think he will just be a third slot type receiver for Aaron Rodgers. And I think the two go-to big guns in that passing game will very much be Jordy and Davante Adams. I have no reason to.
You know how old Davante Adams is?
Well, I'm cheating because I'm looking at I'm looking at it here. 25 years old.
It's pretty young still, so there's room for growth for the guy. Am I saying that I like him? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking out loud here. But wide receiver 18.
People in our fantasy league that also listen, is that one of the hip sleepers? Oh, pay attention.
Clearly. All right. So now, all right. Let's move on here. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night. So your turn to name a player for me.
Yeah, right. And I know it was boring to say that it was dead on. I just couldn't go. I couldn't go higher because you have a lot of good guys in front of them. I wasn't going to go lower, but I was debating about going higher. But there's a lot of good guys there, so I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. All right.
All right. Who do you got?
All right. So we'll let's see here.
God. You have to choose 3 an hour. All night.
All right. All right. Okay. I'll give you a guy who burst onto the scene 2 years ago. First round pick, burst onto the scene, and came back in his sophomore year. And to say that he went through a sophomore slump would be the understatement of the year. Came back and had a miserable year. And I am astounded that he is this high on lists.
Well, what position is he?
You probably know where I'm going. Running back. Can you probably even guess?
Jeremy Hill? No, he's a 4th year. Now, is he a 4th-year player? I don't know. Who is it?
Well, this is fun. See if you can guess who I'm thinking.
Somebody who.
You don't want to guess. You don't need to tell you.
He's a 3rd-year player.
3rd-year player. First onto the scene as a rookie. Miserable last year, and he was very, very high on the running back rankings last year. Miserable year. Awful.
C.J. Anderson?
Nope. Well, he wasn't. Well, he got hurt, didn't he, last year, Anderson?
Who is it?
Todd Gurley, L.A. Rams.
Oh.
Todd Gurley.
So he's ranked 9th. I mean, look. So Todd Gurley. I mean, who's he splitting carries with? So we're in a league now of running back by committee, and I don't think there is a whisper of like. I've started creating my ranking sheet, and it's like 72 plus running back players deep, and there is not a second Ram on that list. I can't name. Is Benny Cunningham still on the team? I don't know. I don't even know who is Isaiah Pede still there? Who's even behind? Who's even behind Todd Gurley on the depth chart? Look, so I mean, look, the team. If Jared Goff takes a 2nd-year leap and he showed some intriguing signs this past weekend, we don't want to put too much stock in a preseason game, but if they can open up this pass, look, I think Jeff Fisher is gone. That's going to help this offense tremendously. I mean, that guy is just. Good point. I mean, yeah. I think that's going to help.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
They have more offensive talent where they don't just stack the box on this guy. Gurley doesn't have to blow. Gurley doesn't have to, make moves like LaShawn McCoy or Adrian Peterson back in his day. But if he is even 85% of the player that we expected him to be coming into this league, he should have a great year as long as he stays healthy. I mean, there's guys ahead of him that we know are going to be more akin to a timeshare, like a Devonta Freeman type. Okay. Gurley is not. I mean, he's not splitting carries, so it's pretty much a lock for 250 to 300 touches for Todd Gurley this year, and a sneaky improved offensive team for the Rams overall. So there you go.
All right.
So my answer is, I will say he outperforms his 9th rank.
Outperforms.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's guys like Jordan Howard, Jay Ajayi. I mentioned Devonta Freeman. Even Melvin Gordon. I don't think Melvin Gordon's a lock. I mean, he's going the 4th overall running back. I don't know. I feel like Gurley, because he had such a bad year, it's come back. But that team was just so terrible.
So wait, Melvin Gordon plays for the LA Clippers? I didn't know he played for the LA Clippers. Oh, that's right. It's the Los Angeles Chargers. My bad. LAC. I see LAC and I think Clippers. It should be the Carson City Chargers. CCC. I love that. How come they don't call themselves the Carson City Chargers? CCC. Done.
All right, next player up.
Outperforming. All right, that's
yeah.
Right.
I think he's going to do better than 9th. All right, next player up. One of the highly touted sleepers came onto the scene last year as a rookie, kind of out of nowhere. I don't think anybody heard of this guy. Was a dynamic punt and kickoff return player.
Jordan Howard? Oh wait, no, not Jordan Howard.
So currently, as the 25th wide receiver, Kansas City Chief Tyreek Hill.
Yep, I knew exactly. As soon as you said the punt and kick return, yes, rookie last year, yes, the jerk himself, Tyreek Hill, yes.
your favorite off the field player.
Well, here's the
objectively
question.
This is only an on the field.
I know. I have to keep my keep my objectivity and not let all the off the field stuff creep in and say no, he's awful. I'm going to put him at.
Look, on the season, 61 receptions, 593 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
Interesting, very interesting player.
23 years old. Didn't really get much field action in the first quarter of the season, at least I don't think so.
No, not at all. No, really was a second half burst onto the scene type of guy. It's interesting because now actually what's funny, and you mentioned I had it in fantasy auction. That fantasy auction, that league actually factors in kick return and punt return yards and touchdowns. So if you were in a league, so I mean, if leagues are going in that direction now, I don't know if this was just one of the few leagues that actually does that, or if more leagues are going towards that. If your league is going towards that, then he's going to shoot up the rankings.
I don't think he's returning kickoffs, though. I don't think he's returning kickoffs, or maybe just punts. Nevertheless,
yeah, well, that's what they do. Like especially they're afraid of injury, so it makes. I haven't seen that. If that's true, then that makes sense. He'll still kick. I'm sure he'll still return punts. Hill is interesting because he is not your prototypical. I mean, you think of top wide receivers on a team. You're thinking of guys that are built a little bigger.
Tall guys. Yeah, right. I mean, the OBJ. Yeah, I mean, Dez Bryant, OBJ, the AJ Green. Antonio Brown's not a tall guy though. I mean,
no, he's not. But here's the thing: Tyreek Hill. If you watched him last year, all of his big plays were the result of, and I don't even think there was much down the field stuff. A lot of them were the screens, the bubble screens, those shorter passes that he turned into big gains because of his agility and his speed. He has not demonstrated to me yet that he can run, that he's a good enough route runner to be a true WR1 or border WR1-2, like the lingo, and that he can, be a guy, especially if you're in a half PPR league, or a PPR league, or even not, that he could be a guy that's going to accumulate enough volume by catching, let's say 5, 6, 7 balls a game, on average, let's say around 5 to 6. That's what the best ones are going to catch, right? To be able to be that type of guy. Now, he's definitely going to be a focal point of that offense, no question. I'm sure that they're going to run a lot of those plays that you saw them run for him last year. But if he's going to be a 24th or whatever he is, a ranked wide receiver in the entire league, where this is a passing league, a lot of guys now are catching 80 plus balls. I mean, I'm sure that the list is extensive of guys that catch 80 plus balls. I don't think Tyreek Hill is getting to that. I really don't. They don't have Macklin anymore, Kansas City. So I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to think who they.
Chris Conley.
Now. Oh, Chris Conley. So, I mean, I don't know if who they're going to be throwing the ball to then. If not Tyreek Hill, but I don't see him being the guy that's going to be a focal point of an offense.
It's a cat and mouse game between the defenses and Alex Smith. Is Alex Smith going to go to Tyreek Hill, or is he going to go to Travis Kelce? Travis Kelce is going to is critical to Tyreek Hill's success. If Travis Kelce is hurt or if he's ineffective, then there's no downfield threat unless some other player on this team emerges. So that's going to be the whole scheme for Kansas City.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Tyreek Hill, he could be one of those boom or bust type of guys. I mean, if he's going to catch, get a higher volume of catches, and he's going to make big plays if he's getting his hands on the ball. I mean, he can definitely be a guy that could be a top 15, maybe even, crack even a top 10 type of receiver if he's going to be that type of guy. I'm not ready to anoint him there yet. I'm really not. I'm not going to cop out and say that he's going to stay right where he is, like I did with what's his face? I forgot who you gave me already. Devontae Adams. I'm not going to cop out and say that he's going to finish, that his ranking is, perfectly slotted. So I'm going to say that he's going to finish below that. I want to see more from him. I'm not ready to anoint him.
You need to see something downfield from him. Yeah, basically.
I mean, he's gonna make big plays this year. I can say that with certainty. Question is he good, and is he going, especially if we're just looking at it from a half PPR, I don't think he's going to have enough in terms of volume catching the ball. So I think other guys that are going to catch the ball more are going to have are going to be better value than Tyreek Hill, because I think a lot of people are going to overvalue him. And I don't know how many touchdowns he's going to score. I mean, he's going to, again, make big plays, and that will probably result in a few touchdowns. How many? I'm not ready to say that it's going to result in a lot of touchdowns. So Tyreek Hill down the list, not far down the list, but I'm not going to cop out again. So let's say top 35. So, there you go. All right, next.
Put me back on the spot. Who's next?
Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. So you gave me 2 wide receivers. So does that mean I should give you a second running back? Mm-hmm. Let's see here. All right. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to give you a guy that could potentially be undervalued. A guy that is, I know that he was a hit favorite. So
Fred Jackson.
Of course, yes, Freddie Jacks. So this is a guy that, if he stays healthy, he is a good, solid back. He's going to catch a decent amount of balls, and he's a guy that could potentially touch the ball, 20 to 25 times a game on at least certain Sundays. Maybe other Sundays it's between 15 and 20. Stays healthy. How many touches will he, get on an average week? How many balls is he going to catch? Has the potential to be a top 10 back, lower than I would have expected on this rankings list. He is Mark Ingram.
Yeah, I've had mixed feelings about Mark Ingram. So on the list I'm looking at, he's 20.
Yep.
Here's the thing about Mark Ingram. What I don't understand is it feels like his team likes him less than everybody else. There are stretches at a time in games. He will fumble the ball or he'll do something, and he'll get benched for the rest of the game, and he'll get 4 touches.
Yeah, not good. Not good at all. And he's competing with Adrian Peterson now, too. I forgot about that. That's right.
So there's Adrian Peterson, and there's this rookie that they drafted who had a huge run over the weekend. I don't think the rookie's going to get that much action because they have Adrian Peterson also. But look, Mark Ingram can catch the football. You want players in high-powered offenses. The Saints is going to be a high-powered offense. There's no question about it. AP is he's over the hill. We don't know what to expect from him. I think he's going to be merely a change of pace back. He'll always want to push for more touches, but I just don't think you could get that from AP. Look, yeah, I like Ingram as a player, but it just bothers me for some reason. The Saints like him less than like all the fantasy people. There's something to it that we just don't know, and to me it's a big. It in part justifies why he's down there. They've never really let him be their bell cow. Like Tim Hightower was getting carries over Mark Ingram. I mean, last year, what the hell? The only guy that couldn't really pass Mark Ingram on the depth chart or threaten him to was CJ Spiller when he was back with the Saints. But CJ Spiller is still in the league. Not to take it another direction. I forgot what team he's on, but he's hanging around and he apparently looks good. Anyway, Mark Ingram is a powerful runner, yet he's elusive. He catches passes. I mean, he's just a bulldozer of a running back, a guy that you would think they should just ride, but they don't. I don't know what it is, and for that reason, I'm not. I want to say I want him on my team, but they have Adrian Peterson. They have this rookie, so there's going to be weeks where maybe it's game plan oriented, and there's going to be weeks where you're just going to be left scratching your head like you are now. Like, what? Why didn't this guy barely play? So I don't know if you're going to see too many weeks with 20-plus touches from Mark Ingram. I don't know.
I mean, Peterson, it's so weird that they brought in Peterson because he is not – C.J. Spiller is a guy that you figure can complement Ingram better.
Yes.
Peterson is a guy
absolutely.
that his whole career he's been a run-out-of-the-eye formation. He's the deep back, fullback, I formation. Get 20 to 25 – minimum 20 to 25 carries a game for him to be really effective. He's on a change of pace. He doesn't catch the ball.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense.
Back. How does he fit into their offense?
That throws another question mark to the Ingram situation. I don't know what their plan. I think it's going to be a week-to-week thing. I don't think they're, it's going to depend on the matchup and the game plan. And
it might be the hot hand. It just might be that.
Maybe AP is going to be more of a home game guy where that the Saints are just so good at home and they want more reliable ball control, or Ingram will be more deployed on the road. I don't know. I actually don't know. Maybe it's the opposite. So the bottom line is, he going to outperform 20 is low. I mean, I think 20 is low. I want to bet on the talent. I'm just worried about how they're going to deploy this guy. I guess you look at
ranked, especially in
you look at that being said, you look at who he's ranked around. Ingram still is a much better talent, I think, than a lot of these other guys, like in the same ballpark, like Ty Montgomery, Christian McCaffrey, Spencer Ware, C.J. Anderson. You have to think Joe Mixon is even above him. Guy hasn't seen a carry yet in his life. Marshawn Lynch is ahead of. I got to say he's going to outperform RB20. Do I think he's going to be a top 5 guy? No, but he's going to do better than that. He's going to be better than RB20. The Saints are going to be an incredible offense, and I think there's going to be enough fantasy value to go around.
All right.
Okay. So
yes. Third guy.
So you gave me 2 running backs. I gave you 2 receivers. I'm going to give you a running back now. We got to go a little deeper on the depth chart here.
Uh-oh. Blah, pal. Or he's so elusive, Paul Perkins. Or how about LeGarrette Blount, who might be cut by the Eagles? Who the hell is Donta Foreman?
He touches the ball, he just looks like this guy's in the 40s, okay? But when he gets injured a lot. But when he touches the ball, just tell he's on. Did you get that? I said when he touches the ball, it looks like he's on another level. He is Thomas Rawls, running back 45. Wow.
So Thomas Rawls is 45 on the list. Wow. Interesting. Now, I had Rawls last year. So Rawls got injured at the beginning of the year last year. Came back and, honestly played well. He played really well. He is a talented back.
Yes.
He is an honest. So here's the situation in Seattle right now. They still have a bad offensive line. So that still worries.
Yes.
Everything that you've read, they have not done anything really, or very little to improve that offensive line. Their offensive line.
He's the type of player that can overcome that, though, because he has that much ability.
Agree. I absolutely agree. He's a powerful. He's almost like Ingram. He's a powerful runner.
Yes.
But he's also he is a loot. Is he the fastest guy in the league? No, but he is a guy that can run away from defenders. He definitely has some agility. He has good vision. He hits the hole, and he when he hits the hole, he pounds the hole.
I think he's more elusive than Ingram. Actually,
yeah, I agree. I have no idea why they brought in Lacy. Lacy stinks. Lacy is just another fat over the hill running back who coming out of college, and especially his first couple of years at least looked like he was going to be a good solid back in the league, and then completely fell off just completely fell off a cliff. And I have no idea why Seattle even looked to bring him in to compete for that starting job. You want to bring him in as a backup, I guess, just as an insurance policy, fine. They also have CJ Prosise, who amazingly is ahead of Rawls on this list. Now, I like Prosise.
The list I'm looking at, he's 45, but close enough at that point. Whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, this list, the Fantasy Pros list, Prosise is ahead of him. But honestly, Thomas Rawls is a very talented back. I have no reason to think that he is not going to get the bulk of the carries in Seattle. Lacey, they're going to come to regret just signing him, and they're going to say, "What the hell do we bring in this guy for?" We have Rawls, we have who's legitimately good back. We have Prosise, who is a good change of pace back, who can catch the ball and can run. So I think Lacey will be phased out very quickly. I think Rawls will take a stranglehold of that starting running back job in Seattle. Offensive line, yes, it's a concern, it's a worry.
And they have Chris Carson, obviously.
Oh, yes, I forgot about him too, Chris Carson, yes. But I think that Seattle offense, if their offensive line holds up, has the makings of a dynamic offense. And that was my hopes last year when I got Rawls, despite the fact that he was injured. He will take stranglehold of that starting job. I would say with 97% certainty, he will be the lead back in that offense. 97. He will 97. I don't want to go 100, and I just picked the number. But he will be the lead back in that offense. He will get, maybe his carries will go up as the season progresses. Maybe it's a little more of a committee early on, but he will take stranglehold of that job. He is a very talented runner, and I am shocked that he is this low on the list. He will outperform Prosise this year. No question, he will outperform Eddie Lacy. I cannot believe that he can at least start the year in the low 30s and not the 20s. 45 is ridiculous. I am stunned at the fact that he is, or whatever, anything in the 40s is ridiculous for him.
Yeah.
He is absolutely 100% going to be better than Darren Sproles and Sanji Perini and Darren McFadden and Jonathan Stewart and Slote and maybe Kareem Hunt will be okay. All those guys that are in front of him, he will outperform. He will be better than. He might end up being a legit top 10 back this year. Give me Thomas Rawls to significantly outperform Rawls. He will rawl over the competition. And he will rawl over the competition. Well, I guess it's impossible to rawl over Eddie Lacy. He'll probably just get caught in his blubber. But he will be a top 15, maybe a top 10 back when it's all said and done. Yes, Thomas Rawls. The lip says, go get him. All right.
Wow.
Good value. I mean, look, if someone's going to grab him in the second round, you say, all right, you can take that gamble. If he's still there, if you're a draft guy and he's still there, as you get to the 5th, 6th rounds, depending on, the configuration of your league, grab him. If you're in an auction and he's going for $10 or $15 even, bid up. Get him. Thomas Rawls.
Looking forward to bidding on him against you. Yes.
Well, maybe it's a ploy. Maybe I'm just trying to
I'm sure.
Deception.
All right. So last but not least.
Oh, that's right. I gotta
give me. What are you gonna give me? A receiver? You don't have to, but.
No, I do not have to. But let's see here. We're going to go to a position that we have not done yet, since we've done all running back and receivers.
Okay.
So let's take a look at the list here. So they think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be number 1. Will he outperform that, Mr. Hip? Go. No, I'm kidding. All right. I am going to give you a guy that I personally am very high on. I had him a few years ago. He was great. I think he is definitely being undervalued now. And he's in a very good offense, a very, very good offense. And I'm actually surprised. I mean, I guess you can say it's not that low, but I'm surprised that he's not at least a little bit higher on the list. He is a quarterback by trade. He plays in the Midwest. And so it's obviously not Tyrod Taylor, your favorite. No, it's Andy Dalton.
Redhead, yes.
Yes. Andy Dalton.
I like Andy Dalton a lot. I like him a lot. You know, he can scramble a bit. He's got a lot of weapons now. A tailback. They just drafted this Joe Mixon guy. Jeremy Hill's probably on his way out.
He's awesome.
Although he's still actually the official starter of the team. I mean, look, if AJ Green is healthy, if Tyler Eifert is healthy, they still have Brandon LaFell. They have Tyler Boyd. If everyone is in sync, Andy Dalton can have a great year. I mean, he's a playmaker on his own right. I mean, he's kind of underappreciated, I think, because he doesn't like make the super deep throws or do anything that blows you away. But he's a guy at the end of the day that's going to get counting stats, and he's in a good offense. I think like you said, so. I don't know. I want to keep it simple for this guy. Let's not overthink it. And quarterback is not quite as deep as it has been. I feel like some of the options after Dalton, the question marks start mounting quickly. But I think he's like one of the last real solid staples of quarterbacks. You know, look, if you're in a 1 QB league, he's a guy that you could get for probably next to nothing as your starter. And you wouldn't feel terrible about it. In 2 QB leagues, he'd be a super solid, even if he was a QB1 and you paired him with another guy right around his range, that's not a terrible tandem either. So I'm just looking at the list here of names, and is he going to outperform 16?
Remember, he was like the number 2 or 3 fantasy quarterback only a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, he was fantastic.
Look, there's guys like Jameis Winston. I don't know. He's highly rated, but I don't know. He has a lot to prove still, I feel like. Exactly. He can run, and another guy's Derek Carr. Phillip Rivers, he's going to hit a wall. Stafford has never really fully broken out. Maybe had one good year. Those are some guys that Dalton has even Roethlisberger, I think. Dalton has a not terrible chance of outperforming half those guys. I'll go. I kind of liked him where he's ranked. I think he's going to be, modestly priced. And I say he outperforms his 16th ranking.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think he can absolutely be a top 10 quarterback this year, maybe even higher. I absolutely agree. Well, you have question marks. Andrew Luck is a question mark right now. Mariota, what? Really? You're going to say he's the Winston, like you said, he's still somewhat unproven, at least to be ranked that high. Newton, still talented, but in that offense, who knows? I mean, Ben and Rivers are usually consistent. Prescott, I can see him, either staying where he was from last year or falling off a cliff. I mean, Russell Wilson, even he could end up being a top 5 quarterback, or he could end up being a top 15 quarterback. I mean, Cousins, I think those and Ryan, I think those are like your surefire, definitely top 10, obviously top 5. Breeze, those guys top 5. If you get them, unless they're injured, you know what you're getting. A lot of other guys, I think, are still question marks, and other guys are just unspectacular. Though they're good, they're consistent, but unspectacular.
Your Eli Mannings, Carson Palmers, Joe Flacco's, Sam Bradford's.
Oh, your favorite Ty guy.
Yeah. Well, the Bills, I mean.
Make note, everybody. In our fantasy league, yes, make notes. The hip is on a Ty God fan this year.
Just worried about who he's throwing.
Oh, he's got Jordan Matthews now. Come on, the amazing Jordan Matthews. Watch out, AFC East. That Buffalo offense is coming for you.
Jordan Matthews may not even play week 1, and so who is it? Zay Jones is going to be getting all the catches.
Zay Jones. I actually know that name because of my fantasy auction a few weeks ago. I know that name.
All right. Is there a hipster moment of Zenith this week?
So I was going through some things. I actually have a interesting historical So I'll leave it to you. I have a interesting baseball historical factoid. We can save that for a later time. It's not like that's time sensitive, obviously, since it's historical. Or I had a few little tidbits on college football facilities. I won't do them both. But I'll leave it to you. Which one sounds?
We haven't mentioned an iota of college football yet. So when better to get started with it than a hipster moment of zenith about college football facilities?
All right. So, yes, college football starts up too. We keep talking about NFL, but college football's around the corner too. How about those Michigan Wolverines? Indeed. Who does Michigan play the first week? Do you know off the top of your head? Go.
Florida.
Really? They play Florida? Ooh. Good game.
No, right. Florida's like 6 players are suspended or something.
Okay, never mind. So Michigan should beat them by 3 touchdowns.
Well, I don't know the quality. I think there was one really notable player that was suspended, but
actually,
still.
I didn't hear that. Well, I mean, we can get into college football scandals we can spend like 4 hours on that.
We should talk about college football next week.
Yeah, we'll get into the college. We will. So it was actually an interesting article by Jason Gay. Actually, Jason Gay is if you haven't checked him out, he's in the Wall Street Journal, a very good sports writer. He had a really interesting article about the situation with the knees on the ground. And actually, if you were watching the beginning of that Browns-Giants game, there was a little circle of Browns players that had their knees on the ground. I'm sure if the president in his speech tonight knew about that, he would have, I can't believe they're disrespecting all of our military by daring to do that. Oh, I can't see. I'm blind. I looked up at the Eclipse today. I'm blind. Anyway, so college football. Interesting article from Jason Gay. College football facilities. So we all know that college football is just a minor league system for the NFL. So because the college football ranks are the breeding ground for the NFL, they have to make sure that the college football players are getting top-notch facilities. So you think, they have nice locker rooms, workout gyms, nice equipment. That's probably the extent of it, right? Well, I can't imagine that you can be a good college football player if you do not have a bowling alley, laser tag, and an indoor water slide. If you don't have those things in your facility, I'm sorry, you're just at a complete disadvantage. So the Clemson football players have bowling alley, laser tag, and an indoor water slide in their facility. So they just have a leg up on everybody else, I guess. So, and the point of the article was touching on just the absurdities of and the extravagant season of a lot of these college football facilities. So, Clemson, those things. Texas recently recently renovated their locker room, and each locker in that locker room, you want to take a guess as to how much each locker in that locker room cost? One locker, just one locker. How much it costs? Want to take a guess?
Is Texas the one that has like televisions as?
Yes. Oh, okay. So you're familiar. Okay. I didn't know. I just saw this recently. I was looking.
There's a college football state.
Yeah. So you want to take a guess, or you want me to tell you?
Well, isn't Texas? There's some college football team that has like TV screens as signs. Yep. Is this Texas?
Yes.
So you didn't mention this as part of the cost, did you?
I wasn't get to it, but now you've.
So I'm going. I remember seeing. Well, that's the only thing. I know they have TV screens for their names.
No nameplates. No nameplates. So, a locker, you can have like a little nameplate that says your name, right? Nope. Texas, they have flat screen, 43-inch flat screen TVs. So each locker costs $10,500 a piece for each locker in that locker room. So, yeah. Ohio State, waterfalls in the locker room. Alabama, an arcade room and a 212-seat amphitheater. Florida State recently overhauled their locker room, or their facility, whatever you want to call it, to the tune of $250 million. And each locker has an iPad, just in case these kids didn't have their own iPad. Now you do in your locker. Oregon, they actually just spent $138 million in their renovation. I think that was a large part due to the philanthropy of the CEO of Nike, Phil Knight. and they actually have a food court. They have a sign in the food court, or the sign for the food court itself that reads "Eat your enemies." Interesting. And then, so in the year 2014 alone, and this was 2014, and we're now 2017. This was as recent as I can find. 48 schools were surveyed, and just in the year 2014 alone, 48 schools spent the combined $772 million, and they estimate that in the years since, the cost has exceeded $1 billion on renovations. There you go. That's where your tuition dollars are being put to use, everybody, so that the Clemson football players can have laser tag, and the Ohio State football players, they can walk by that beautiful waterfall in their locker room.
They can't even use it. They can't jump in it or anything. It's just merely a thing to look at.
Maybe if they're hot and it's after practice, they want to cool off. Hey, jump in the waterfall. Oh, the guys at Michigan can't jump into a waterfall in their locker room. we have the built-in advantage here at Ohio State.
Oh my God.
Yep. Amazing.
All right.
So obviously there's been a lot of, you still hear, the talk about college football players, should they pay them or not. Josh Rosen, actually, and I thought this was interesting. Josh Rosen, who is the UCLA quarterback, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, might come out, might be a top 5 pick next year, maybe a future Jet if he comes out, was quoted as saying recently, "Football and school don't go together. They just don't. Trying to do both is like doing 2 full-time jobs. There are guys who have no business being in school, but they're here because this is the path to the NFL." Truer words have never been spoken. All right. So there you go. There's your hipster moment of Zenith. The factoid, I promise you, the baseball factoid, that's an interesting one too, and your jaw will drop when I do share that one. So we'll pick the timing for that as we get towards the end of the season.
Sure will.
Yes, indeed. So with that, we move to the final segment of the week, as is customary, everybody's favorite, yours and mine, and that would be the hipster beer of the week. Take it away, Mr. Hip.
Yes, indeed. So we are going to acknowledge a brewery that has not been mentioned before on this show, and it is a New York-based brewery. It's in Rockland County. And it is called District 96. And you had some of this political juice just 2 Saturdays ago during our lovely share.
The super
crowler, yes. The super can called a crowler, for those that have not enjoyed. It's basically a 32-ounce can of beer that you really just need to drink when you open it. It's not a growler that you have a cap and you put back on. This is a can that you snap open. And look, 32 ounces of beer, so in all likelihood you're sharing it with a couple of folks. This so District 96, I don't think they distribute cans or anything yet, but this one was an enjoyable IPA, fresh squeezed, tangerine explosion, tropical.
Tangerine explosion, huh?
I am one of 158 people that have actually rated this beer on Untapped. That is Brad Dude. It was an enjoyable crowler. And that is your hipster beer of the week. And so, look, next week we'll get more into fantasy. Maybe we'll touch a little bit on college football, because that's more so even around the corner than the NFL.
Labor Day weekend.
I enjoyed our fantasy football segment there. We're going to have to come up with something better now for next week. And that's a show. Yes. All right.
Yes, and the notice that we did not touch at all on that spectacle, that abomination that's taking place this Saturday. But I guess I just mentioned it now. But we will, and I actually have a few. I did have something that I was going to say tonight. I held back. It's something that I've actually prepared, a written thing, so I will maybe have like an abbreviated, modified version of it next week, just because.
All right. The big cliffhanger.
I do want to get something on that. Yes, cliffhanger for all of you for next week. But that's for next week. Hopefully none of you watch that abomination on Saturday is all I have to say. All right. Yes, thank you for joining us.